Yeah, so we are now the people from the EV Chargepoint company. No, yeah, we agree with Snowflake. The less cars in a city, the better. But just to check, who of you is driving an own car or a shared car? Raise your hand. Yeah, okay, a few. Who of you who drives an own or shared car is driving an electric vehicle? Ah, okay, not so many, a few. Okay, good. Yeah, my name is Susanne. I'm the product owner for the site selection tool that we have, and I'm also a geographer by training. And I'm here today with
Ali Saad. I'm the data scientist lead at Connected Kerb, thinking about the insights about how users behave, our charging network, think about adaptation to 23 zero emission goals.
Yeah. So, what is Connected Kerb? We are a Chargepoint company, but our business today is we design, manufacture, install, and operate charge points. We manufacture in the UK. We use recycled materials. We have no third-party hardware. That means that all the data that we generate, we can directly access. We are, in the last 18 months, we won some fantastic deals, and we are now installing against those, which brings us into a very good position, being one of the fastest growing charge point networks that there are in the UK. And with that, we were blessed with an investment from Aviva, and we see at the moment that there's a very high adoption of clients and consumers. Our clients are mostly local authorities. What's important for us is that the charging in our network is convenient, affordable, and reliable, and we pride ourselves with a very high uptime of 99-point-something%. What is a good site? So a good site for a charge point, in our opinion, is one that is compatible to the existing infrastructure and planning situation on a specific location, but also one that is actually used by the consumers and gets adopted by them because then it has also a high utilization and is actually needed in the location where it is. We measure that with utilization, and I think Ali will talk a little bit more about utilization.
Thank you, Susanne. So one of the most key factors for EV charging company, the concept or a metric called utilization. And when you think about utilization, you can think of it as a percentage of the time a charge point being used and delivers some kilowatts to the EV. And from that perspective, when you think about future moving into 23 zero emission goals, you want to deploy charge points on the streets, but at the same time, you need some sort of revenue in order to deploy more. And this is where comes utilization. Where is going to the places or the best places to deploy a charge point where it's going to generate some revenue, and then we can deploy more. And thinking about this, every location has its own story. So this is a place in Brixton where you can see several charge points on the map. Some of them have a big dots, which means that it delivers higher utilizations. The smaller ones delivers lower utilizations. But at the same time, when you dig deeper into the data, you will see two different charge points close to each other. The walking distance between those charge points is about 20 minutes. So this is about like a mile or a mile and a half. And you can see one of them deliver very high utilization, 28%. The other one is very low. And you would ask yourself a question, why are we having this on our data? One hand here, the biggest one here, that seems to be near a train station. So you might think, okay, it's near a train station, but at the same time, is it a reason to deliver high utilization? We don't know the answer, but when we search some of these factors about the geographical factors, that would deliver us to a question or how we plan. And back to you, Susanne, to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you. So, we were confronted with this challenge to find actually good sites. And there were many people talking about different approaches. And what we saw that there's a need that we actually approach this with data and with a standardized process. We came together as a group of industry experts. We had planning experts, and also we had some tech support. And we built a map-based tool that is fueled by data and has an automated planning UX. And I will just show you a little bit in a video how it roughly works. So you can see that very classical, there's different layers that we can activate. You can see now flooding. We need to know where it will be wet because you don't want to have a wet charge point. That means the charge point won't work anymore or breaks. But we also can look into different layers, population density, for example. We want that people are actually living there where a charge point is, but we also look, for example, into the car ownership density or wealth. You can very classically look at those layers and then make a decision. Or what we actually also incorporated is some feasibility information, because we need to connect to power. So we also have not only I think in green you can see here competitor charge points, which is also interesting for us because we would not like to install too close to competitor charge points to eat up each other's utilization. But what we also have in here is we can see the power grid, so we know on which side of the street it's actually interesting for us, and if there's even a parking lot, because if there's no parking lot, then it doesn't make any sense for us to connect there. The coolest thing, or what we're very proud of, is that we can automatically generate sites with this, and I think you will just see it in a minute where then the sites kind of rain onto the area. And we have a score, so our models in the background, they come up with a combined score for how good a site will be and what the kind of predicted utilization is. You can then go into the site and look around a little bit and get a feeling of what the situation is there before actually someone needs to go there and looks around like in person. And that's with that.
Right, and given these layers and data, you might want to think, okay, how we're combining this? Because this is the data that happens on the ground. Every location has its own story, but thinking about how our network would look like from a modeling perspective. And this is how we observe in our network. Our average overall network is totally different from Justin House or Cambridge Science Park. But those two different locations where you can see, the first one, this we know now it is on a train station. You can see the usage on day of week. You can see when people start a session. It is by 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening, and for how long they're charging. So that seems it is different from you might think or consider from a train station. But at the same time, on another location like Cambridge Science Park, which is a business park, you can see utilization here or usage usually by 7 to 9 o'clock in the morning. And you can see usually it happens over weekdays and for 3 to 6 hours or maybe to up 6 and 9 hours, which means this is like the working hours. Based on that, you can think, okay, each location has its own story, and from that perspective, you need to consider these kind of stories in your modeling. And this is what we're trying to do. And this goes back to Susanne and the relationships between the models that we have and the data that we fit into the models. So back to you, Susanne.
Yeah, thank you. So we came then up with different theories why people on our charge points would behave like this. Based on that, we would buy more data or we would add more data. So we have 3 data buckets, basically. One is public data, census data. Then we have industry data that we purchase. And then we have self-generated data through our sessions and the utilization of charge points and also the charging behavior of people. This all gets fueled into our models, and then we experiment a lot. The thing is, like, we have some theories, for example, how visible is a charge point or how accessible is it? That makes also a difference to the user. But how do you reflect this in data? It's really challenging, so we still have lots of things to do. We are at the kind of beginning of our journey when it comes to experiments, and we have learned a lot of things. So maybe for the context also to say, we have the network that we have is 7 to 22 kilowatts. That means a car charging there needs 6-7 hours to charge. So you think, oh yeah, this is overnight charging, or this is when people work. So we were thinking, where do people live? Where do people work? Well, actually, what we see is lots of people top up. So they charge during the day for a few hours. And I'm like, oh no, how we planned, it was all wrong. With more and more experiments that we run, we can see that we can improve the actual the models that we have. We can see that some factors might not be as interesting. We also assume that residential charging is nighttime charging. That's not true. We get lots of wrong suggestions still in country roads where no one will ever be charging. And also we experienced that some charge points would just disappear from the network, and we wondered why is that? Yeah, because they lost the mobile reception. So we also needed a data set that covers before we install a charge point if there's actually mobile reception. And then the question is also, do points of interest actually define utilization, or is it just also something that we are making up? But yeah, we are still at the beginning, and the tricky point, and that leads me to the last slide here, is we don't know what we don't know. We are really good in predicting a bad side. That's excellent. We are also good in predicting a good side, but what's the difference between a good side and a really excellent side? And what we are also working with is lots of challenges that come with a highly dynamic environment. So we see that there's more and more EV adoption, there's more and more demand, but where will it be? We also see that the network is growing, not our network that gives us more and more data, but also other charge point operators grow as well. Then there is things like urban development, gentrification, parking restrictions, and traffic restrictions that can be changed, but also used vice versa. So a charge point can inspire a area that is gentrified or is at the brink of gentrification. Then we have traffic data. Is that really worth what we want to figure out? And then the biggest point is demand and flexibility service. So that means energy during the night, for example, is much cheaper. So if you charge during the night or you park your car at 7 p.m., but the charge starts at 2 a.m. in the morning until 6 a.m., it's much cheaper, and we could give this to our clients or hand this through. The question is just, can we motivate our end consumers to drive somewhere else or to kind of park so long and not start the charge? So it's all things we need to figure out. But we were happy to discuss and to answer questions. We are Susanne and Ali, and you can connect with us afterwards or on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions out in the audience? Hands up if so. Have you seen one? Daria? On the left? Oh, I think Daria is on her way to one there.
Some people
Hi. Is that switched on? Can you hear me? Yeah. Thanks for that. It was nice to hear all the different data sources you're taking in. It sounds to me to be quite sort of supply-led, and I wonder to what extent you've thought about including data about the people and their opinion of these charging points, because I think there's a lot of people out there who might buy an electric car if there was a place to plug it in without tripping up their neighbours. And I don't know whether you're able to gather a sense of demand rather than just looking at sort of affluence data and other surrogate metrics, and by asking the community.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because that's for us the most easiest way to install something is when people do actually wish for a charge point on their street. So when we work with local authorities, we then ask them, did you actually do public participation? Do you know where the need is for your residents? And then we can bring this into the tool so we can then work with them better. We also thought about common place, where we can then work with a bigger area. The question is always, this is public space, and we believe that it needs to be a democratic process where everyone can have a say. So it is very important that we have the local authority working with us on this, because we don't want to go just somewhere and plant a charge point. We also cannot do this. Yeah.
May I add something, Susanne? So to your question, sir, also coming soon to our platform where you can ask to set a charge point near where you live. This is coming on our new mobile app. I think that will be in September time. And from that perspective, based on a collective responses, we'll be able to go and deploy a charge point if there's a demand or a need for it. And thank you for your question.
Okay, one more question. I think it's over here on go on then, let's do that one. We'll do two more.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So you say you are optimizing for utilization. So is it actually that 100% is the optimal number, or is it somewhere lower because presumably at some point actual availability starts to suffer?
Yeah, so 100% utilization would be 24 hours a day, someone charging, which is not happening,
not likely.
and also not realistic. So we are talking lot smaller, way smaller numbers. I think also you as a driver, you want to find a free spot where you can actually park and charge. So the utilization number needs also to be smaller to actually find a point. But we want to have charge points that get actually used and not see anything in our network that never got used in a few years' time. Yeah. That's what we try to work against.
Okay, final question over here from this gentleman.
Thank you. Channeling forwards sentiments earlier and thinking about increasing battery and distance in vehicles now with electric vehicles and decreasing range anxiety and the pace of build out, is part of your consideration that with the rise of autonomous vehicles as well, that your focus should be more on hubs rather than street networks?
Did you go?
Yeah. Good, very good question. I love it. So when you think about the future, I see this in two different ways, and it's my personal opinion, and maybe some folks in the company might agree with me on this. There are some destinations or hubs where if you're going from here to Manchester, for example, you need to charge once a time, and that could be on the street, and that requires maybe rapid charge points. But most of the usage of our car usage, that could be within the city or within a small range, and you need just one charge point nearby where you live or where you work. So I see the future in a combination of rapid charge points and hubs, but at the same time, charge points where it is accessible to where you live and to where you where you work. And this is why we call it Connected Kerb, because the most optimal charge point near where you are based usually.
Awesome. As much as I'd like to do one more question, we need to get through. But thank you so much. That was a fantastic talk. Thank you, Connected Kerb team.
Thank you.